Hi everyone. Yesterday I recorded the Susan variations, I'm calling it. It's variations on Oh Susanna. And today I'm here to talk about what I did to come up with that arrangement and the things that I was thinking of and the moves that I made to make it happen. So yes, let's just jump right in, and write me a note if something isn't clear, and I'll kind of answer it. But the song starts like this. We're in the key of G. Couldn't be a better key for the guitar, I think. Great key. And you know, something about this melody is, and as it is with a lot of folk songs, the melodies are largely pentatonic scales. And there's so many options when you have that kind of setup of how you can harmonize it. So my thinking on this arrangement was, here's this basic melody that we all know, and how many different ways can I approach it, coming from different directions, and come up with something interesting and fun to play. And also, later in life, I'd learned how to play the Travis pick style or picking style, finger picking style, all that. And so this was kind of a neat chance for me to scoot into that world. So it starts out, we're in the key of G, G chord, and my bass line is heading downwards now, diatonically. That all makes sense? Two dominant, that's kind of interesting. Now, so I made my little round on the first phrase, then I decided to make the bass line go up for the second part. Still diatonically. C sharp half diminished. D. C over G. Now the next part of the melody, I repeat the melody. I'm up an octave now, and I kind of have this. Love that. It goes from the G there down to F sharp to F natural, sort of a moving inner line. And then I put a G chord over an F bass, E minor. So in that little part of E minor, I have that inner moving line that goes. And then I go F over E flat. A little moving inner line there to a D7. So that part again. And then I go D sus. I'm keeping the bass line moving down. Now I'm on C sharp half diminished. Now the bass is heading down chromatically. Now in that part, so C sharp half diminished, then C minor 9, and here's something that's kind of illegal, but it works. On the C minor 9, the melody goes up to an E natural after the D. That's how the melody is supposed to go, and it shouldn't work because it's a C minor chord. It should be a E flat, but I had the choice of that would be kind of more legal, but I didn't like the way it sounded as good, so I go, and somehow it passes by. Then B flat 7 chord, A minor, D7, kind of a nice D7. It looks like a regular D7, but I leave that open B string there. I like that sound. So that section again. That's B minor 7. And then now this is just a 2-5 to the 4 chord, D minor 7, G7 to C, but I wanted this sort of movement, so I go, and that's nothing big, but it's going D minor, and kind of like D minor over A, so the bass line's going. G sus, G7 over B. So it's kind of a diatonic-ish move, nothing fancy, but I like the way that sounds. Now on C chord, with a little movement, diminished chord, and then I get up to this diminished chord, and I just, you know, you could have gone, but I wanted to connect the bass movement, because what's happening with the bass movement, it's going to go to a C sharp up to a G over D chord. So that's why at the very last minute over here, I take that diminished chord and then I add that low C sharp bass note to it. And then that connects with G over D chord. Then E minor. Where do I go? Oh, yeah. So that whole thing again, so. And I'm going to A sus, A7, D sus, D7. And I do this little next move. Now I'm heading, the bass line's heading up. So that's a D sus, D sharp diminished, E minor, F major 6, then F sharp diminished. It's kind of like a B7 flat 9 over F sharp, and that leads really neat in a kind of a weird way. That leads into C over G. It's kind of like you can see that the voice movement, each of those notes moves in a neat way. So I go, now I'm on a C over G, and then I do this. That just happens to be in that area. It's kind of cool. It looks like a C chord, and then I let all the notes off, and I get a C major 7 by using those open strings. And then I go, that's a C over G, a G sharp minor 7, then I add that note to get it with a sharp 5, but it's the same as kind of an E triad over G sharp. So then A minor 7, D over A, and you'd think it was going to arrive here. That's where it kind of wants to go. But instead I have it arrive at this B flat major 7 with a 6. So that whole little last movement. And that's a neat voicing. There's a root, 7, 9, 3, 6. And then I do this thing with it. I get, and then I do an open G. By lifting that finger, I get an open G, and then I run this. Then I put it back down, and I get this sort of scale running up. So my pattern is, and then I kick on. And that's like a chorusy sound. Then I loop this. And that keeps looping, and then I start soloing on that a little bit. And it's the scale that kind of fits on that would be a B flat Lydian scale. And then to get out of that, I start doing the pattern and put the volume pedal on the looper to take it down. And then I do this F chord, real open sounding. And then that leads back to G. And the G chord has no third in it. And a lot of the chord changes in this tune, especially in this next section that I'm coming up, they have no thirds in it, and it leaves it sort of open, and that real kind of folky sound. So that's kind of a neat transition. The B flat chord to F into G, and now we're back to home bass.